Let's talk about Mahomes being listed as one of the top 5 QBs facing the most pressure to win a Super Bowl this year, answer a few additional Orlando Brown Jr. questions, and dig into a stat that is very telling as to why the Chiefs must adapt their offense in 2022, and much freaking more. But first, how about those? What's up, guys? My name is Cole, aka the red-bearded Breaking Bad, or sometimes known as your favorite crimson-hued facial follicled brethren, and I do daily news about the Chiefs and the NFL overall, so definitely sub if you're new, and hit that like button if you agree that Derek Carr will never win a Super Bowl in his entire career. And let's get into this video, starting with some news about what Chiefs players have been up to recently. Juju Smith-Schuster yesterday showed off the fact that he can get Chipotle every single day for free with this little card. And I need to know where he got a card like this. I mean, it's probably because he's a pro athlete, famous, all that good stuff, but I will do whatever it takes to get one, aside from selling my soul, of course, because I do not have one to sell. Anyway, moving on, Cornell Powell released some highlights from his recent youth football camp, which looked like a grand old time. If you ask me, Juan Thornhill attended a Nelly concert, and I had no idea that guy was still performing. George Karlaftis is still going at it with Bobby Stroop. Travis Kelce attempted to coach the Charmin Bears through a play, but ultimately, it did not work out. But what did work out, or rather who, is defensive back Lonnie Johnson Jr., as he posted this video of him yesterday, training and basically going wild like a child on Red Bull. He's ready for this upcoming season, calling it money season. And he actually said this: getting traded put me in a different mode. And with that being said, I'm coming for my ish. Yes, Lonnie has a lot to prove, because being on a team as horrible as the Texans not only puts a strain on your stats, that's obvious, but it can affect your state of mind as well. And players want to go out and prove themselves after coming from such a horrible team. So getting out of there was a good thing for both him and Justin Reed, which is also why I hold their stats very loosely, and I'm excited to see them both out there this upcoming season. And then the rumored QB3 to be, Shane Buechele himself, could be seen out there throwing some bombs and getting some work in with Baltimore Ravens wide receiver James Proche. That's a guess on his last name, to be honest, but Shane's out there looking nice. And then you got to see this, because they switch roles and James bombs a pass to Buechele, which is pure gold, and you really do love to see it. And maybe Buechele sneaks in his QB3 this season over Dustin Crum purely for the fact that he could also be wide receiver 7. All right, probably not, but it was a fun clip nonetheless. And then Max Kellerman recently listed 5 QBs that he feels are under the most pressure to win a Super Bowl this year, and his list went as follows: Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, Matt Ryan, Ryan Tannehill. He's not winning no Super Bowl, I'm sorry. And then he lists Patrick Mahomes as the 5th QB with the most pressure to win a Super Bowl this year. And the reason why he lists Patrick is because he needs to be able to prove himself without a dynamic player like Tyreek Hill.
Mahomes and Reed mean you're going to be a good team. If you have Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, you're going to win a lot of games. Travis Kelce is the thing that makes them really a juggernaut. They just keep chugging along, the chains keep moving. But Tyreek Hill, to me, was that extra dimension. And so that's why I'm saying it's not just about the regular season, it's about the Super Bowl.
And Kellerman goes on to give examples of times when Mahomes has basically used Tyreek to help bail them out of situations like WASP 3rd and 15 in the Super Bowl, if you remember that, or when Tyreek took that quick crossing route, 70 yards for a TD near the end of the Chiefs and Bills divisional game. Kellerman says Tyreek leaving puts a lot of pressure on Mahomes to get out there and show or prove that he can win the big game without someone like Tyreek on the team. But Keyshawn counters Kellerman here and basically says, bro, we're talking about Andy Reid and Patrick freaking Mahomes. Mahomes elevates receivers, and while Tyreek will be missed, others will step up, and Mahomes is going to make it happen.
But it's not going to stop them from winning games. It's not going to stop them from winning a Super Bowl again. It's just not going to stop them.
It's not going to stop them from winning another Super Bowl again. Well, Keyshawn, I like that answer, bud, because you know what? Mahomes makes players like Byron Pringle, Albert Wilson, and Demarcus Robinson look next level. He literally takes the floor of the receiving room and forces it up at least 2 stories higher because of how elite this man is. So let's not kid ourselves here. Mahomes will find ways to win no matter what it takes and no matter who it takes. He's going to get them the ball. he's going to make it happen. It's that freaking simple.
All we got to do is do what we do. We dominate every time we touch this field.
All right, guys, I had a few additional questions from my Orlando Brown Jr. videos yesterday that I want to get to real quick here in a moment. But yes, you heard that right when I said videos, because I dropped 2. There was a lot that happened yesterday, but here's a very quick summary. Orlando's agent went public yesterday morning saying that sadly, they couldn't get a deal done with the Chiefs because he wanted to see Orlando have more security in his contract and wouldn't allow him to sign a flashy-looking deal without more than 2 years of security built into the contract. I honestly feel like his agent was posturing a bit, trying to see how the Chiefs would respond because the deadline was still like 6 hours away at the time, but no dice because the Chiefs stuck to their guns, presenting Orlando with a 6-year, $139 million contract on the outside, but the last year was basically fake. So it was really around a 5-year, $95 million contract, averaging approximately $19 million per year, which is nowhere near top tackle money like Orlando wanted. So instead, Orlando is going to play on the franchise tag and earn a fully guaranteed $16.6 million, aiming to prove himself this season and play his heart out in order to earn a bigger contract next season. Whether that's from the Chiefs or another team, I don't think he really cares. Again, he opted for less security now to earn more money and security later via a bigger deal. And a quick side note here, although Juju Smith-Schuster is not on a franchise tag, this is similar to Juju's mindset and exactly why he only signed a 1-year deal with KC as well. So I get that aspect, and that is the reason I'm so confident Orlando is going to sign this franchise tag. Remember, Orlando only has 1.5 years of experience at left tackle, and he has to prove himself this year in order to land a bigger deal. That simple. So Orlando believes in himself, will sign the contract, and do his best to prove himself as one of the best left tackles in the league in order to earn more money and security in the future. So that answers the question that I saw of what happens if Orlando doesn't sign, because he's gonna. But for those of you curious, if Orlando went full on insane for some reason and opted to sit out the entire season, or at least until week 10 or some random week later in the season before he faces any real crazy penalties, the Chiefs have a few options: free agency, Geron Christian, Roderick Johnson, or even Joe Thuney. I've shared this already in a video when I covered the offensive line earlier this week, I believe it was, but yes, free agency is an option via this list here. And nothing too crazy pops out to me via this list. The Chiefs could also always wait and see who gets cut from other teams during training camp and all that good stuff. And that's option 1. Option 2 is Geron Christian. He's played over 1,000 snaps at left tackle and even earned a better PFF pass blocking grade than Orlando. That's right. Geron Christian's pass blocking grade was a 78.8 and Orlando's was a 76.1. Now, where Christian struggled much more than Orlando was in run blocking, Christian's run blocking grade was 39.6. Yes, 39.6, while Orlando's was a 67. So again, Christian is not a better option than Brown, but certainly an option that could work if it had to. And next up on this list of options is Roderick Johnson, who, according to Charles Goldman of Chiefs Wire, was seen taking some snaps at left tackle for the Chiefs in Orlando's absence during the course of the offseason program. And then he also started at left tackle for the Texans during portions of the 2020 season. But I'm personally more optimistic about Geron Christian than Roderick Johnson. That's just my personal take so far. And here's possibly the last option on this list. It would be to kick out Joe Thuney to left tackle and fill in his absence on the inside, but he has short arms at 32 1/4 inches. For example, Eric Fisher's arm length is 34.5, Trent Williams is 34.25, and Orlando Brown Jr.'s 35 inches. So Thuney doesn't have ideal arm length, and that could be a definite issue for him playing tackle for any real length of time. Plus, he's an absolute stud at left guard, so I'd hate to have an all-pro give up that spot to fill something he is much less experienced at. Anyway, they did it last year for a game when Orlando went down with an injury, so could work in theory, but those are the long-term issues I see with Thuney trying to fill in with his T-Rex-like arms. Anyway, there's the alternate options. So you guys know, questions answered. But again, Orlando's signing the tag, and thankfully, that pretty much means I'm done for the most part with Orlando Brown Jr. news, because I'm growing tired of talking about this man right now, as I'm sure many of you are tired of listening to me talk about said man. this much.
I'm tired. I thought I just needed a night's sleep, but it's more than that.
And then here's a stat we need to talk about, one of many that could be found if I had more time that would further validate why the Chiefs need to be running the ball more. Warren Sharp, who is indeed sharp of the mind, recently dropped a stat on Twitter comparing teams with the highest percentage of rush attempts that resulted with contact in the backfield versus teams with the lowest percentage. And my takeaway from the stat is this: if a team successfully hands off the ball and at least makes it to the line of scrimmage prior to having any contact, this stat counts in a positive light towards said team. And the first thing I'd like to note about this list is that the Bengals are ranked first in the entire league on this list, which shows how bad their offensive line really was, but also speaks something much louder to me as a Chiefs fan. This shows how bad the Chiefs' D-line was, and not being able to get to Burrow when it mattered in the AFC Championship game, unacceptable. Anyway, let's move on to the bottom of this list, which features teams that had the least amount of backfield contact via their rushing attempts, because on the bottom of this list, 32nd out of 32 teams was the Kansas City Chiefs at 32%, ironically. So, out of the times they actually ran the ball, they were able to at least make it to the line of scrimmage without any contact 68% of the time. That's over 2 out of 3 rushes, basically. And I will say, this stat doesn't have anything to do with what said running backs were able to do once they made it that far, but you combine this stat with the fact that the Chiefs have one of the best offensive lines in the entire league, and I don't even have to say it, but I will. The Chiefs need to run the freaking football. It's that simple, and I know some of you are already looking at me with that smug little smile on your face like, yeah, but Mahomes can scramble out of the pocket like a madman and almost always make it to the line of scrimmage, thus boosting this stat extremely high for the Chiefs, which in turn would put them very low on the list. Well, not so fast, because someone had this exact thought and Warren Sharp answered it. If you remove Mahomes' rushes purely using only rushing attempts from running backs, it only changes the Chiefs' percentage from 32 to 30. So it doesn't change the stat that much, and it actually further proves the point that the Chiefs should make a more consistent effort to run the ball, especially when you consider the fact that Mahomes was blitzed a mere 13.4% of his dropbacks in 2021, which actually made him the least blitzed QB in the entire NFL, and on top of that, the least blitzed QB in a season since 2011, when PFF even started collecting data like this. So, you have teams refusing to blitz and dropping back sometimes up to 8 players into coverage, basically saying, go ahead, run the ball, we double dog dare ya. And the Chiefs basically say, no thank you, still only running the ball 37% of the time, which was ranked 27th in the league in run play percentage. Yes, almost bottom 5. They were actually 6th bottom in the NFL in run plays overall. Therefore, I share all of this to say, I officially declare the 2022 NFL season as a season where the Chiefs should possibly, maybe, consider running the ball a wee bit more. Now, I know I'm coming off a bit nitpicky here, but establishing a more effective run game is only going to help Mahomes and not hurt him. For example, you have the AFC Championship game when the Bengals kept dropping back 8 into coverage because they knew the Chiefs were not going to run it anyhow.
Run the ball. Run it. We got to run the ball there.
Don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom here in this segment though, because obviously the Chiefs have had a very dominant offense regardless of how little they chose to run the ball. For example, last season the Chiefs scored on 51.6% of their drives, which led the entire league in scoring percentage and is the fourth consecutive season they have scored on over 50% of their possessions. This stat is actually so insane that only one other team, the 2018-2019 Saints, have scored on half of their possessions in back-to-back seasons. And the Chiefs have done this 4 seasons in a row. I still think, though, that with the loss of Tyreek, the Chiefs really do need to rely a bit more on establishing an effective run game, and I hope that Rojo and a healthy CEH and McKinnon can help achieve just that. And I know we've been talking about runs, but here's where I want to pass, you like that, the question off to y'all and ask your thoughts. What do you think of this? Should the Chiefs run the ball a little bit more and become a bit more balanced on offense, especially considering how good their offensive line is and how little teams are blitzing Mahomes? Or do you think Andy Reid is simply incapable of allowing such a thing to occur because he really really likes to pass the ball. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and let's argue about it down there like mature adults per usual. From here, I want to shout out Brian Nesbitt for the $50 super thanks, BOMB, that he dropped on us yesterday. He simply said, "Thanks, let's go Chiefs." Well, I like Chiefs and cheese, specifically cheddar, as it helps feed the fam, and I appreciate that a ton, you legendary man. And I also appreciate all of you, especially all 30 of you who made sure to let me know I misspoke yesterday by calling the Dallas Texans from back in the day before I was even born the Houston Texans. So I do apologize about that. I worked a 14-hour day on these videos yesterday covering the Orlando Brown Jr. madness, and I messed up on that one. So as an apology, after I end this video, I'm going to go shave off my beard. Make sure to leave a bearded comment to potentially be featured in an upcoming vid, sub for more daily news like this, and check out this video here, which is from Chiefs Concerns, where they ended up interviewing wide receiver Cornell Powell yesterday, which is pretty freaking awesome. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?